make sure that I do that. And why don't you take it away, and we'll see if this works with the Zoom as far as you sharing a screen with everybody as needed.
Okay, so hi everybody, I'm Mirala, and I'm very honored to be with you. And I'd like to say right back at you, Scott, you're an inspiration with all of the work that you do on these really important issues. So thank you very much. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Jewish Earth Alliance that we launched only about 4 months ago, I guess. It's coming on now. But before I do that, maybe you could share a little bit with me about your experience in your community with advocacy. Because the reason we launched this was really to help Jews, to mobilize Jews and help them to be able to be involved in political advocacy on climate change. So just so I know who I'm speaking to, since we're a nice intimate group, maybe you could just tell me if your community is involved in any political advocacy. Howard, I see you're not muted. Why don't you start? Are you involved with advocacy?
Yes, but advocacy at our temple in the climate area, we're certainly got advocacy in other areas like refugees, and we actually have a free medical clinic for the area. But anyway, with regard to climate, we've just been getting started the last few months under the auspices of the Tikkun Olam committee, and we're trying to figure out what to where to go with this. The rabbi is very interested, and that's a huge help. The temple administrator is as well, and I think the current president, but I'm not sure. So we're thinking about having a general meeting after the high holidays, which if we're organized enough, the rabbi could say something about that at the high holidays. He's already mentioned climate change in sermons.
Okay, that's very helpful.
And we've checked into looking at solar for our temple and concluded that we just do not have a suitable location. So we're on to other things.
Okay, good. If I don't mention solar, because it's not really in my presentation, but I'd like to tell you what we did in my congregation with solar. So remind me at the end. Okay, how about Adrienne? You still there, Adrienne? Okay, we can come back to you. How about Ellen?
Hi, it's Adrienne. I'm sorry,
okay.
I was in the car.
Go ahead.
Basically, I'm working with Scott and Stephanie. We're doing a lot of local advocacy, which Scott can tell you about. We've visited our Congresswoman to try and get support for HR 763 and an emergency climate resolution. So we're doing that and a lot of other local things. Scott can tell you more.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
Ellen.
Yes, I'm brand new to my temple, so I have no idea if they're doing anything at all in the climate area.
Okay, very good. We'll give you some ideas.
Yeah, and I would like to, this is the first time Ellen has joined us, so it's interesting. She's up in Gainesville, which has traditionally been a university town for the University of Florida, so I'm glad she's with us today. So I hope she'll get some ideas and share more with us as time goes on. So thanks, Ellen.
Great. And Bob?
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, I'm with Temple Bethel and Aptos. We have an active social action committee that has as part of it a green team. We put over 200 solar panels on our temple, and we're working with our temple staff to reduce use of plastics at Onegs and go to more ecological cleaning materials. And I'm looking into trying to get electric vehicle charging stations in our parking lot.
Oh, great.
So I also work with the California Religious Action Center for Reform Judaism on California-based legislation. And I'm pleased that one of the bills we were pushing this legislative session was signed by the governor yesterday. So,
Yay! Congratulations.
and we have a lobby day in Sacramento. We'll be going up August 20th to try and get support for a plastics reduction bill for the state of California. And a little later, I'll have some announcements about a new bill introduced in Congress today.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. But that's through mostly, well, does the synagogue get involved in that? Or that's, I guess, yes, because it's through the RAC, right? Yeah, okay. Very good. All right, so thank you. I really appreciate that. Helps me know a little bit more about who I'm talking to. And as I'm speaking, I hope you'll just think about how this might be helpful to your congregation or another group that you're involved in, because what we're really trying to do is build a nationwide coalition, grassroots Jewish advocacy coalition on climate change. So we launched this about 4 months ago. Oh, well, I forgot to share my screen. I have all these great pictures to show you. Where is it? There it is. Okay. Where are we? Where are we? Where are we? Slideshow. From beginning. Okay, this is to inspire you. That's for our friend Howard, right? Those are your friends from Jewish Climate Action Network at the People's Climate March, which was a very exciting event. So about 4 months ago, you know, after a bunch of laying the groundwork, we launched our new coalition called the Jewish Earth Alliance. And basically, as you all know, climate change is very urgent, but more importantly, perhaps, for the timing of our coalition, we feel that this time right now is a breakthrough moment. As you know, not much was happening advocacy-wise with climate change, especially on the federal level, but now we're seeing a real turnaround. 70% of Americans in a recent poll said that climate change is important to them personally. 48% of people in the United States said that they feel that they personally are being harmed by climate change now, or that people in the United States are currently being harmed by climate change. So we're seeing a lot more awareness than we were in the last couple of years. But Jews are not really very mobilized on this issue, despite the fact that we know that when we call on Jews, they care about it and they will get involved. This is a picture from the People's Climate March in New York in 2014, I think that was. And we had a fantastic response from the Jewish community because we did a lot of organizing to get the word out and to suggest that this was something that people really needed to show up for. And we also had a very good response for the People's Climate March that took place in Washington, D.C. So our goal is to raise that collective Jewish voice. It's not important to everyone to be involved in this issue as Jews. Many people are willing, happy to be involved in secular organizations. But for those of us who really feel that it's important to express a Jewish voice on it, we need to have a way to do that together. So this is really our mission, to join with other faith communities and those facing environmental injustice, to act in solidarity with young Jews. I just spoke with a Jewish leader at Sunrise today. It was very exciting. And to activate our community's influence, to mobilize Jews to press the U.S. Congress for action, to inspire Jews to get more involved locally, and to press Jewish organizations to put climate change on their agenda. What happened to me is I was living in New York City and I was involved in organizing the Jewish Climate Action Network group there, which, by the way, we took our inspiration from the group in Massachusetts. But when I came here to Washington, D.C., I realized that we here have a very special opportunity to connect Jews all around the country with what's going on in Congress at the federal level. And I felt like that was something that we could do here that, others don't really have that opportunity, and we should step up to the plate. But I wasn't really sure how to do it. So I started attending a meeting, a regular meeting that happens twice a month on Capitol Hill of representatives of different faith groups that work on advocacy on the Hill on environmental issues. So the Quakers are there, the Unitarians are there, the Methodists, the Catholics, everybody's there. And we share information and talk about what we're all doing. And I was very inspired by a woman that I met there. Her name is Lavona Grow, and she had started a Unitarian Universalist for Social Justice Advocacy Corps. Now, I know some of you can't see the slides, so I'm sorry for repeating for those of you who can see it, but I'm just going to make sure that everyone is on the same page here. So what the Unitarians do is they have a policy team that identifies timely actions in consultation with other environmental groups, and they send out monthly action alerts to the churches. The church members write letters to their own legislators, and they send them to Washington, D.C. And in Washington, D.C., local volunteers visit Congress every month, hand deliver those letters, and meet with legislators and their staff. And what's great about this is they're able to be there on a regular basis and begin to develop relationships with Congress people and their staff. Very important, I think two things are especially important about it. First of all, that they do this on a monthly basis, so it's very regular, and that they're able to bring those letters from constituents. Lavona told me that when she first started this effort, her fellow Unitarians said, what's the point of us Unitarians showing up regularly on the Hill? There are so few of us. What difference can we really make? And she said to them, well, there are more Unitarians than there are Quakers. And everybody knows that Quakers are very active on advocacy and make a big difference. So I looked up how many Quakers there are and how many Unitarians there are. There are only 60,000, or maybe it's 80,000 Quakers in the United States. There are 200,000 Unitarians. There are 6 million, or they say it could be as many as 9 million Jews. So I figured if they can make a difference, we should organize ourselves and be able to make a difference too. Now, as you all probably know, most of those 6 million Jews, they're with us on climate change. This is a statement from the Jewish Council for Public Affairs, which represents the Jewish community relations councils all around the country. It's a strong statement about climate change. And many, many Jewish organizations have made these statements about climate change. Unfortunately, though, they're not backing it up with too much action on the advocacy level. So I really believe that there are a lot of Jews out there who would like to get involved if we can help them to do so. A lot of times when I talk about this, people say, well, why focus on the US Congress? Bob, for example, is very involved in advocacy on the local level and making a big difference in California. Thank God for California. California is leading the way. So we really need that action on the local level. But there are some things that need to happen at the federal level with the US Congress. And not much has been happening for obvious reasons recently. But now there's a real change with the Democratic House, of course. And members of Congress are writing a lot of legislation. They're trying to get ready for the next election when hopefully we'll have a more friendly Senate and we'll be able to actually pass things. But if we are not mobilized now and starting to create those relationships, getting people involved, we're not going to be ready for when that moment really comes. My example that I like to use for that is to talk about the Affordable Care Act. You know, when Congress tried to withdraw the Affordable Care Act, millions of people got on the phone and called their Congress people. But we have to be ready for that moment. This is just a list of all the different areas that Congress is working on right now, writing legislation about. And another interesting thing about that is, you know, the legislation doesn't come out fully born. It usually goes through various different iterations, and that's what they're doing now. They're working out all the details. So on the slide, you can see economy-wide incentives, pricing carbon emissions, reducing transportation emissions, reducing emissions from electricity, reducing manufacturing and industrial emissions, agriculture, short-lived climate pollutants, reducing emissions through foreign policy, adaptation and resiliency, workforce training, research and development. So there are a lot of different areas that are being looked at now. And what we could do is something really special and different than what environmental organizations do, which is we can bring our faith voice to the table. We can bring our stories as people of faith and what we're doing in our congregation. And experts on the Hill tell me that that's really, really needed because members of Congress are used to hearing from the regular suspects, the environmental groups, but they don't hear often enough from citizens who identify in other ways, for example, as what we do. So what you could do is, we're basically, I'm asking for your help. First of all, if your congregation would like to get involved in this effort, that would be fantastic. If you have a local social justice group, Jewish social justice group that might want to get involved, or if you want to start your own group, one of the great things about launching this coalition is we've had a couple of little groups start up to say, oh, well, if you're going to give us the direction, send us the action alerts, help us understand what we can do, we'll do it, So we have a couple of new groups that are actually started up because of this. So we really appreciate it if you think about if there's a group that you're involved with that might want to get involved, or if there's people that you can reach out to who might want to get involved in other synagogues or just in the community. And basically what we're asking is for you to educate yourself about national issues, to write letters every month and send them to us in Washington, and hopefully as you get more involved, also meet with your elected representatives at home in district. And this is just a picture, for those who can't see it, of my sister, my brother-in-law, and her friend. We all went out to a softball game of my nephew, and I said, we really would like to deliver more letters to congressmen, and they were happy to sit there at the softball game and write some letters, just to say that people are really happy to be asked to take action if you make it easy for them. They'd really like to help. So I know you can all do it. And we, have some suggestions of other ways to get started, which might be to go to another group at the synagogue, for example, the Sisterhood or the Daily Minyan, ask them to write letters once a month, or set up a letter writing table for parents at religious school drop-off. My synagogue, my cantor offered me to have a letter writing table before Kabbalat Shabbat on Friday, before the Friday evening service. So there are a lot of ways to get started with writing the letters. And then we'll be delivering them for you. So this is just a picture of our first lobby day on Congress. And I have to say that the members, we met with staffers, but the staffers were really happy to hear from us, especially, I must say, the Jewish staffers. They're really happy to see a Jewish group showing up on this issue on Capitol Hill. Now, before I finish up and just ask for your questions, I want to also mention that we're helping to organize for the global climate strike, which is going to take place on September 20th. And if you haven't heard about it yet, Greta Thunberg, the young girl in Sweden who's, motivated young people all across the world to strike every Friday for climate action, has put out a call asking for adults to support the climate strike on September 20th. And we're doing some outreach to try to get Jewish youth groups and Jewish schools to participate in this. And if you're interested in getting involved in that, I can certainly talk more about that afterwards. So let me stop here for a minute and ask if you have any questions. And then I think if we have time, Scott suggested that we could write some letters right here on our call. But let me stop here for questions.
This is Howard.
Yeah.
What you've described, that you're working on the Jewish Earth Alliance, sounds like something that was presented at JCAN's conference in the Boston area a few months ago.
Yes.
Somebody from that.
That's right.
Somebody must have been there. I was in the room.
I was there.
Okay.
I was there, and
Oh,
thank you for mentioning that, because I did want to thank you. Jewish Climate Action, we have 15 members of our coalition so far, and of course,
Uh-huh.
Jewish Climate Action Massachusetts was one of the first ones, and Jewish Climate Action New York is one of them as well. Higher Ground Initiative, thank you, Scott. And we have the CCL Jewish team, thank you, Bob. I think you're involved in that, aren't you? Yeah? And I don't know, maybe we have anyone else represented, but we have 15 groups so far that have agreed to participate in this. So, thank you.
And is there a website or some kind of central communication hub for
Well,
talking about this?
Right now, there's an email list, which I'll be happy to put you on. I'm
Okay,
working on the website. I bought the URL, so very shortly, you'll be able to go to JewishEarthAlliance.org and find us. But if you go there now, you won't find anything yet.
Okay. Got other questions, but I'll wait now.
No. Well, do you think your synagogue might be interested in getting involved?
Yes, well, I'm sure the JCAN wants to be involved. The other thing we wanted to be involved with is the global climate strike. And one thing I haven't been able to find out yet is what happens between September 20th and September 27th. I haven't seen anywhere any information about the calendar for that week. And perhaps it's still under development and just not ready for prime time or what. And it looks like there's a student strike on the 20th and maybe the global strike on the 27th. That's all I've been able to figure out so far.
Yes, well,
We wanted to be involved in that.
That's great.
And
The reason you can't figure that out is because nobody's really, it's kind of leaderless. The best information you can find about the global climate strike is on the 350.org website.
okay.
I can go back to here. You can see it's the
I've got the
globalclimatestrike.net. And they actually have a guide about how to organize your own. It's a pretty decentralized effort. They're hoping everybody's going to organize their own actions all around the world, basically. I think the reason they're announcing it being from September 20th to 27th is that they realize that maybe not everybody is going to do their action on that Friday.
I was wondering if, especially in Washington, D.C., there might be a series of actions on different days, all focused on different things like members of Congress, agencies. I don't know.
Yeah, my advice on this is I made this flyer because there really wasn't any information available. I think that you should just take initiative and do whatever you think is best. So you should plan an event in your community or try to connect with the groups in the Boston area that are doing things.
No shortage of groups in the Boston area. This is the center of action for the what's her name's group. I'm blocking on the names. The young people. Sunrise. Yes, I know the person who founded it. So, and I've been trying to get a hold of them.
Well, the one thing I would say is if you're interested in if it's important to you to have the Jewish community involved, I would just step up and start getting involved because I don't think anyone else is taking the lead on that.
Yeah, well, JCAN wants to, and it may be that we'll just have to start gathering, and sending out our own tendrils to others who may join us in that, rather than thinking we're going to join in something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, Howard, you may want to, just for your information, I think we talked a little bit about this during our last phone call, and we want to talk a little bit about this tonight, and I'm glad you brought it up now. But one thing we talked about is that overlaps that first day. The 20th is a Friday,
right? So
that there's possible entree into temples, synagogues that want to do some kind of service linked to that. And then Saturday night is the Slichot service. So we definitely have, I know Rabbi Salkin here at Temple Solel in Hollywood is already working on some ideas for a service for that, for, asking for some forgiveness with respect to sins against the earth. So that could be a way to, pull in. And we had the idea, I don't know if that was Judy or Mirla, maybe you had that idea of inviting a speaker from, one of the strikers who's actually, one of the young people. I think this one particular event is the call for everybody to participate, not just young strikers, but to get some of the youth involved would be a really nice idea for those services or the slichot on Saturday.
Yeah, well, almost every temple has a youth group.
Right.
Yeah, speak to them.
And the people who had each congregational school would be able to say whether there's anything in their current curriculum about it, and the youth group could, anyway, I could think of ways to get congregations involved. It's going to take a lot of footwork.
Everything takes a lot of work, but it's worth it. It's worth it. Anybody else?
Yeah, that's the same. And that's the same. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I said enough.
Meryl, I had a question. I think I may have sent you some links to some blog postings by an Orthodox rabbi in the Times of Israel earlier this year, and I just wondered if there's anybody that's part of the JEA at this point that's out of the Orthodox community, and if you think that's, if not, is that something that we might look at in the future?
That's a great question. Individually, yes. Like there's a Orthodox rabbi who's working at Chazon, and he's stepped up to actually lead the Chazon participation in this. So that's encouraging. And of course, Hodi Nemes from Jewish Climate Action Network. He's a rabbinical student at Chovevei, which is a liberal Orthodox yeshiva. But it would be great to get some Orthodox groups. If you have any contacts that might be helpful with that, we would love to have them.
I haven't looked at Kalal in a long time, but I'm wondering if there's any interest there, or if the officers or the staff at Kalal could identify particular rabbis that they might know who have this interest.
If you have any contacts there, I'd be very grateful if you could connect me.
I don't. Synagogue Council of Massachusetts is another one. It's actually a multi-denominational organization of synagogues in Massachusetts, which they actually sit around the same table. It could be chaired by, sometimes it's headed by a woman, which and with Orthodox representatives around the same table. So it's a very interesting organization, and they actually were present at the climate conference we had.
Oh, very good. Okay.
So,
well, if there's someone in particular, well, I'll ask Katie about that, but if there's someone in particular that you think we should reach out to, we'll be very happy to do that.
Mm-hmm.
What about Ellen? Ellen, you have any questions? How does this sound to you?
I'm brand new, so it sounds exciting, and I have a meeting with my new rabbi next week, so I'll see where the temple stands and where there might be a place for me to fit in.
Wonderful. I actually was in Gainesville a couple months ago at the Conservative Synagogue. You must be at the Reform Synagogue, yeah?
Yeah, I'm at Shir Shalom. I am.
I spoke to a few people there who were interested, so maybe there's some collaboration that could.
Okay, I'll bear that in mind. Good, thank you.
Okay, well, Scott, what would you like to do now? Do you want to write some letters?
Yeah, let's write a letter here. I wasn't sure, I know the last time we met, you're thinking August is kind of a hiatus, but in DC, but we're always up for writing letters. So.
Okay, good. So everybody take out a pen and a piece of paper. And it's fun to write the letters. You know that at the end of this meeting, you'll have done something, you'll have taken action, and also I hope to demonstrate to you how easy it is to do it. In my synagogue, we have a climate action team, and at our monthly meetings, we save the last 10 minutes for writing letters. And it's really great because, you know, everybody kind of thinks about what they want to write. We ask each other questions, so we're all learning a little bit more. And then we share some of the letters at the end, and it's really fun to hear what everyone else has written. So I can tell you it's you know, it's not hard to do. So here's a sample letter. I just decided we have had 3 action alerts so far. This one was about the faith principles for a Green New Deal. So we participated along with other faith groups in signing a kind of a general sign-on, organizational sign-on letter, asking members of Congress to follow through on the Green New Deal resolution, to write legislation, and to do that keeping in mind ethical and moral considerations, such as making sure that this is ambitious climate legislation, and that we keep in mind communities that have been harmed by fossil fuel development in the past, as you know, taking care of the workers in the transition and so on, things like that. So I'm sure you all have something to say about that. So why don't you just take a minute? I'll write one too. That way we'll have another letter. If you have any questions, ask me.
This is Howard. I'm gonna pass on actually writing it. My hand has gotten too arthritic to to write a letter very clearly or fast.
Okay.
But this looks familiar. Is this online?
Yeah, you can find, if you look on top of where it says that little 10-year-old Jewish Climate Action Alert.
Yeah.
We have a Dropbox folder, so you can find the action alerts there. If you want to just make a note about what you're going to put in your letter, you can share it with us. I just have to get a piece of paper. I forgot to bring a piece of paper for myself.
Well, I caught the advice and brought one.
Ellen, here, I'm typing it because my handwriting's illegible. Is that okay? And is it, and do you recommend our own senator or representative or somebody specific?
Oh, specific.
Yeah, very specific.
You should write to your own member of Congress.
That's my question. Thanks,
Yeah.
Marilla.
Write to your own. And it can be handwritten or it could be typed, whatever's more comfortable for you. The main thing is to put something personal in it.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and comment. Ellen, I don't know if you're moving from someplace else into Gainesville or you were in state before that, but we, as you probably know, and I'm sure Mirla knows, our senators are really tough about this issue with climate change, but we're trying to change that.
Right.
I don't know, your local representative Gainesville may be a supporter.
He's not. It's Ted Yoho. I've discovered that already.
I don't know who that is, but
We really love you guys in Florida being involved. So important. My parents live in Sarasota, and their representative is Buchanan. And he's one of only 3 Republicans that voted for HR 9 for the staying in the Paris climate agreement. And I called them immediately, and I'm like, you got to write your representative regularly and keep him, keep pushing him. That's a real opening.
Makes me realize that I don't even know where my state rep stands on this.
Yeah, that's the good thing about doing this. You have to go and I do so much research on my phone every time we're writing the letters in our meeting.
But I sure know where my 2 senators stand, Warren and Markey.
Oh, they're good. Yeah.
They're
One of the questions
heroes.
people often ask me is it even important to write to your congressman if they're engaged, already on a positive and interested in the issue? And my answer is yes, because even though they may be, good on the issue, they need to hear from the constituents to remind them that this is a high priority. My congressman is Jamie Raskin. He's really great on climate change. But the last time I was going to write a letter to him, I went to look on his website to see what he had done lately so I could, add a thank you to the letter. And I thought there was nothing on his website about climate change. He hadn't done anything lately, at least that he felt he was going to put on his website. So, I feel like we have to keep up the pressure. We have to let them know that this is a high priority for constituents.
Mm-hmm. Well, that tells me what I got to do next is go to Moulton's website, Congressman Moulton's website.
Okay. Well, I don't want to run out of time for any other agenda items Scott has on there. So you can finish up your letters and make note of my email, jewsforcleanenergy@gmail.com. It's at the top of the slide, jewsforcleanenergy@gmail.com. So what you can do is take a picture of your letter with your phone or scan it, whatever's easier for you, and email it to jewsforcleanenergy@gmail.com. And our volunteers here in DC will be honored to hand deliver your letter to your member of Congress on our next lobby day. We'd love to have your letters. We'll be sending out another action alert within the next few weeks for our September lobby day. Congress is in recess in August, so we won't be delivering any letters in August. And if your organization or group is interested in signing on as a partner of the Jewish Earth Alliance, you can let me know and we'll send you our form to sign on. We would love, 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 love to have you and to get you involved. So thank you very much, Scott, for allowing me to present.
Oh, thank you so much, Mirla. We appreciate your efforts so much. So I've got, we'll go ahead and encourage everybody on this call to go ahead and send you that. And then I guess my question is going to be, I want to alert people to a recording if we're successful doing that. And perhaps, would you like them to send the same letter, or if I send that email out to our HGI members, or just put them on alert for, I will certainly include the next call in the HGI. But let's get them started now, and maybe and asking for a letter on the same call. So if you don't mind sending me a copy of what was on the screen, or maybe I can go back and grab that. And
I can send you, I'll resend it to you.
Okay, and I'll do a follow-up with everybody and ask them to go ahead and send that to you and we'll pick up, we'll pick a date maybe in the middle of August, for just to have a deadline in place or something to get it to you, so we can know then and have a count. And then from this point forward, we'll make sure to include you know, the monthly action alert and anything we send out from HGI, so that we'll start that process. So thank you so much for all you're doing and for the presentation this evening. And hopefully we'll, you know, have some other people join us via recording, or, you know, take a look at what we did this evening and make sure that they're part of that. I think your news, you know, this evening, that you actually had people forming groups based on some of the activities is really exciting, and it's very, very nice bit of information for us to have. So thank you. Thanks again for that. And you're welcome to join us or go as you need fit from this point forward, because I know you're busy. So